Call to order this meeting of the Goose Creek CISD Board of Trustees. Before proceeding with tonight's agenda, I would like to remind everyone in attendance that this meeting is being recorded through video and audio technology. At this time, I ask that everyone please silence or turn off all electrical devices. Thank you very much. Ms. Woods, was this meeting properly posted?
Yes.
Do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Dr. Duarte, would you please begin?
President Richard, school board members, Mr. O'Brien, the opening exercises for the May 8th, 2017 board meeting will be presented by students from Gentry Junior School. We will begin the opening ceremonies with the prayer led by Howard Sampson. Everyone please rise.
Would everyone bow their heads, please? Father, we thank you for this crowd and these parents and these students and these teachers and also administrators, Heavenly Father. Father, we thank you for each blessing that you give this district each year by having great students and great accomplishments by these students each year. Father, we ask you to look out for the men in blue, the men in the military, and our firefighters also, Father. Father, I ask you in these in your name. Amen.
The pledges will be led by Mark Contreras and Olivia Cotter.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated. The following students from Gentry will perform Take Me Home. With us today we have Bryce Como, Mark Contreras, Olivia Cotter, Kaylee Flores, Johanna Gonzalez, Kennedy Jacquet, Desmond Johnson, Zoe Johnson, Jaden Luna, Brittany Martinez, Yahir Martinez, Shane Thompson, Darius Woodson, Courtney Wright, and Michael Wright. The students are under the direction of Mireya Mejia, Maribel Colas, and Principal Kathy Holland.
You light up in the dark. You're the glow of priceless work of art. Oh, I see a shining star. You're the light from afar. Oh, don't you forget, the only thing that matters is your heartbeat's growing strong. Oh, don't you forget that nothing else can matter, 'cause you know where I belong. Oh, take me there, won't you take me there, won't you take me, oh. Oh, take me there, won't you take me there, won't you take me, oh. We light up the sky. Heaven knows there's a star street pass you by. Oh, 'cause love can never die. Forever, you and I. Oh, don't you forget, the only thing that matters is your heartbeat's growing strong. Oh, don't you forget that nothing else can matter, 'cause you know where I belong. Oh, take me there? Won't you take me there? Won't you take me home? Oh, take me there. Won't you take me there? Won't you take me home? Take me there, won't you take me there, won't you take me home? Oh, take me there, won't you take me there, won't you take me home?
Great job, guys. Good job. Thank you very much. Awesome.
Go Mustangs. Very good. Great job, guys. Thank you. So proud of you.
Parents, we'd like to thank you for coming out this evening to support your students. Did you walk out? Visit anytime. Thank you very much. All right. Dr. Duarte, I see we have a public hearing on the ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act.
Ms. McKay will be joining Dr. Duarte for this presentation.
So what we're going to be doing is we're going to go over the Every Student Succeeds Act program grants. We have to hold a public hearing every year to get input from community, parents, teachers.
So parents, teachers, principals, and other school personnel have an opportunity to express their opinions regarding the design, planning, and implementation of Title I Part A, Title I Part C, Title II Part A, Title III Part A, and now Title IV Part A. The Title I Part A funds are focused on improving the basic programs, and those funds provide supplemental resources to help our schools with the high concentrations of students from the low-income families and provide high-quality educational services.
When we look at Title I Part C, that focuses on our migrant education program. And again, we're looking at supplemental instructional and support services for our migrant students and their families. And this is in order to conduct identification and recruitment of our students, data collection, and records transfer as required by the law.
Our Title II Part A funds are building systems of support for excellent teaching and leading, and these funds will provide supplemental funds to improve teacher and principal quality, as well as increase the number of highly qualified teachers in the classroom, as well as highly qualified principals and assistant principals in our schools.
Title III Part A focuses on our English language acquisition, so we're referring to our English language learners. And again, we're looking at supplemental resources that will ensure that our children attain English proficiency at high levels in their core academic subjects.
Title IV Part A has been added to our ESSA funding, and this one will focus on student support and academic enrichment, and these funds are going to provide supplemental resources to support a well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, as well as effective use of technology.
So at this point, we welcome any design input or questions that anybody might have in regards to this application.
And we might note that this is a public hearing, and anyone in the room has the opportunity to make comment at this point in time regarding our ESSA requirements.
Hearing no comments or questions, I will close this public hearing on the Every Student Succeeds Act. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 4, recognitions and acknowledgments. Back to Dr. Duarte.
We will begin our recognitions tonight with our Goose Creek CISD junior and senior students who had the opportunity to participate in the 6th annual ExxonMobil High School Essay Contest, and I believe it's the 7th. We have Connie Tilton with us. She is the Public Affairs Advisor with ExxonMobil, and she's going to come up and help recognize our winners. We're going to go ahead and start with Goose Creek Memorial High School. And in first place, we have Uriel Moreno with his teacher, Sue Canariato. And Connie is giving Uriel for first place an iPad, an iWatch. Go ahead, Connie, go ahead.
There's a motive for Miss Tilton being in these pictures.
And in second place from Goose Creek Memorial High School is Cameron Cutbars, and also with her teacher, Sue Canariato, and she is going to receive $100.
Right in front of me. Okay. You take a picture of all 6 of y'all, or 8.
From Robert E. Lee High School, in first place, we have Clarissa Garza and her teacher, Kurt Bouillon. And in second place from Robert E. Lee High School, we have Annalise Lopez, also with her teacher, Kurt Bouillon. From Ross S. Sterling High School, we have Javi Wynn with her teacher, Karen Rohatch. And in second place, from Sterling High School, we have Kimberly Gaithan with her teacher, Angela Buring. From Impact Early College High School, first place, Lindsay Morgan with her teacher, Emily Patrick. You have to go take a picture.
Teacher of the year, y'all.
And in second place, we have Paula Garabay and her teacher, Emily Patrick.
kids come around so it hurts. Come here, bud. You're not going to get to be. Sorry. No, come here, right here. Right here. I'm sorry. Y'all, come on. Yeah, kids definitely, and then we'll get the teachers. Not the John. Very important. Connie. Okay, come on. Y'all come up behind it, in between. In between. Come on, Kurt. Okay, y'all, there's teacher A between you, and then right there, scoot that way a little bit. Good. There. That's good, Kurt, to go that way. Good. You didn't even have to ask for it. Sure, Brian. Sure, Brian. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Ready, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's it. Thank you, guys. Mom can download them. Just tell Angela to download them.
On April 27th and 28th, the Goose Creek CISD Education Foundation once again surprised teachers throughout the district with grants for innovative classroom programs. This year, the Education Foundation awarded 77 grants, totaling about $120,000. Since the inception of the Education Foundation in 2009, the organization has awarded more than $830,000 in grant funds. These funds allow teachers to introduce programs in their classrooms that are not covered by the normal campus budget, enriching the educational experience and opportunities for thousands of GCCISD students every year. We would like to thank the Education Foundation, a group of dedicated volunteers, for their commitment to the students and teachers in our district.
Everybody kind of went pulling up over here. Get that purple shirt on. All right, here we go. Gilbert, can I see you? Yeah. All right. Here we go. Gilbert, scoot over. Good. All right. Where are you at? Go over here in the end down here.
I didn't know you was so small.
She's taller than you think, isn't she? All right. Go down there by there. Okay, here we go. Get in there. 1, 2, 3. Make sure that looks good. Oh, it's so pretty. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Go. Thank you. Thank you very much.
The following 2016-17 seniors have earned national honors as a result of their performance on the Preliminary Scholastic Aptitude Test National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. There are 4 levels of recognition: commended, semifinalist, finalist, and scholar. The following Goose Creek CISD students have earned the indicated recognition. From Goose Creek Memorial High School, Chinmay Kulkarni received commended. From Ross S. Sterling High School, Andrew Duran commended. From Ross S. Sterling High School, Rachel Lahowitz, finalist. The following 2016-17 senior has earned national honors within the National Hispanic Recognition Program as a result of his performance on the PSAT and MSQT. From Ross S. Sterling High School, Adolfo Amador.
Zip for that group. Okay. I fell asleep. I'll get together. Like talk about it. Go that way. Because I'm trying to get the board members out of there too. Okay, good. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Thanks. Wait. Wait.
Taking pictures with the parents of these 4 students, please stand and be recognized.
Next, we have Christy Leaf, our Director of Advanced Academics, who will recognize our Duke, TIP, and UIL academic state students.
All right, good evening. Each year, students from the district participate in what's called the 7th grade Duke University Talent Identification Program. The Duke Talent Identification Program is a national program that focuses on identifying academically talented students and providing innovative opportunities to support the development of their academic potential. Students who are identified to participate in the Duke Talent Search Program are given the opportunity to take a college-level test such as the ACT or the SAT. This provides these 7th grade students with an above-level testing experience. They actually test in the same room as juniors and seniors do, and their scores are compared to that of juniors and seniors. For the 2016-17 school year, Goose Creek has 15 7th grade students who received state recognition from the Duke TIP program and 1 student who also received what's called grand recognition. We'll be recognizing these students and their family members this evening. In addition, we'll also recognize the principal as well as the campus staff member who plays such a critical role in the Duke TIP process on campus. So students, when I call your name, please come forward. And if you're a family member of one of these students, please stand when your student's name is called out. We'll be calling out the names of those who are here tonight. Students from Cedar Bayou Junior School who receive state recognition are Crystal Smith. Go ahead, Crystal. Take a picture. There's a reason she has 2 plaques. I'm going to tell you about that in just a second. Okay, then we have Brian Ward from Cedar Bayou. There was another student from Cedar Bayou that couldn't be here tonight. She had actually an emergency, so we miss her tonight. But one of these students up here, who has the 2 plaques, you can see, actually received what's called grand recognition, and that's a huge, tremendous honor. Very few receive that honor. So in order to receive that honor, you had to have scored in the top 4% in the nation. That's major. Congratulations, Crystal. The principal of Cedar Bayou Junior School is Mr. Michael Curl, and I know he's here. Michael, where are you? There you are. Thanks for being here. And also the counselor who's responsible for this program on campus, Miss Laurie Cervantes. Are you here? We want to thank her also. Okay, students from Gentry Junior School who receive state recognition are Alan Kosip. The principal of Gentry Junior School is Miss Kathy Holland, and I know she's here along with her counselor, Miss Darlene Minyard, who's done this for so many years. You do such a great job with it. Nice job. Okay, students from Highlands Junior School who receive state recognition are Gabriel Brock. Congratulations, Gabriel. Next, we have Ethan Goodman. Next is Irene Martinez. Ashton Pages. Then we have, I'm sorry. Next we have Connor Rodriguez. All right, and Amber Worley. The principal of Highlands Junior School is Mr. Gary Guy. I know I saw Mr. Gary Guy in the back, along with his counselor, Miss Mandy King. Okay, students from Baytown Junior School who receive state recognition are Kenzie Laird. Abigail Patterson. And Alyssa Torres. The principal at Baytown Junior School is Mr. Matt Bollinger, but he couldn't be with us tonight, but he wanted to make sure that I told you that he was so very proud of you. And the person who is responsible for coordinating the Duke Chip program on campus is Terry Savanka, and she couldn't be with us tonight either, but she did a great job with the program. Representing Baytown Junior School tonight is Miss Camille Burt, and we're so very lucky to have her. Let me tell you just a second about Miss Burt. You can go ahead and up to the front, Miss Burt. She's actually retiring this year. Number one, after how many years, Miss Burt? 38 years. Miss Burt is actually the teacher who preps all of these students to take the SAT and the ACT, and she's always done such a fabulous job with it. Has done it for as long as I can remember. And we're proud to recognize you with a bell tonight. All of these students have been invited to attend a state recognition ceremony that's put together by Duke University and held at various locations throughout the state of Texas, such as Lamar University.
Everybody scoot down one. Good.
Again, this is a huge accomplishment. Let's give all of these students another big round of applause. And if you're a parent of one of these students, would you stand again? And let's give them a big round of applause. Nice job. going outside where you were before, where you were lined up.
Great, guys. Great job.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Okay. You want me to go ahead? Okay. Tonight we'll be recognizing 4 students from Goose Creek Memorial High School who advanced to the state UIL academic tournament that was held on April 22nd in Austin, Texas. GCM has worked diligently over the past several years to actually build its UIL academic program. Underneath the supervision of Susan Jackson, GCM principal, which I believe Ms. Christy Spites is here, the academic dean representing GCM. Thank you. And also, that whole UIL academic program is actually underneath the actual coordination of 2 fabulous people. Miss Angie Johnson, where are you? A fabulous teacher from GCM, and her sister, Miss Stephanie Schwul, who couldn't be here tonight, but they do a wonderful job. I can't say enough about them. Do what? Now let's honor the 4 students who advanced to the state tournament along with their fantastic UIL coach, who's also here tonight. When her name is called, please come forward. Chinmay Kulkarni. She looks familiar to you, I know. The team that actually advanced is the spelling team. It's the spelling team, and they placed second at state, missing first by just a very slim margin. The next team member is Fahad Syed. Did it? Fahad Syed. All right. Angela Quinn. And Jayton Kulkarni, a 9th grader, the brother of Chinmay. Chinmay actually also placed 5th on an individual standing. So, nice job. The students were coached by Miss Rosie O'Doffin. Please come forward and let's take a picture also. And Miss Angie Johnson, where are you? Come on up in the picture. If you're a family member of one of these students, please stand. Anybody? Next, we have Philip Morgan, our Director of Fine Arts, who will recognize our visual arts students as well as presenting several resolutions.
Thank you, Dr. Duarte. We'd like to recognize students and teachers listed below on their State Visual Arts Scholastic Event, or VACE, state qualification. The following students qualified for the VACE state contest by winning their respective VACE region competition. The students recently traveled to San Antonio where they competed against the elite visual arts students from across the state of Texas and came home with multiple state medals. Our first recognee is Katia Thongbarusut, a senior from Goose Creek Memorial High School. Katia is under the direction of Mr. Jamar Simeon, art teacher, Goose Creek Memorial High School. Our next qualifier is Ms. Skylar Newton, a freshman at Goose Creek Memorial High School. There we go. And her sponsor is Ms. Jonna Morris, art teacher at Goose Creek Memorial High School. third state qualifier hails from the other side of town, from the Ross S. Sterling High School, a junior, Miss Priscilla Cerna. Priscilla is under the direction of Miss Brandy Bariga, our teacher at Ross S. Sterling High School. And our fourth and final state visual arts qualifier for VASE is also from Ross S. Sterling High School, a senior, Avery Weir. Avery is under the direction of Ross S. Sterling art instructor, Miss Annie Watson. Do we have any parents this evening of these students who have come to see the students we recognize? We do. Please stand. All right, please give one more round of applause.
No hide those teachers. Okay. Oh man, you got right up there. Okay, there you go. That's good. Perfect. All right, here we go. Let's see you. Go that way. Good. Perfect. 1, 2, 3. Stuff your time. 1, 2, 3. Excellent.
These are our state VASE qualifiers. Please give them a round of applause. Suspiciously, you'll see a couple of them round back around for a second recognition, because now these following 3 students were recognized. Yep, make sure they lap back around. There we go. It's like NASCAR. There we go. The following 3 students were recognized for their artwork at the state level, but not the VASE contest. They were also recognized for their artwork during the Texas Youth Art Month, which is a national celebration of art across the United States. The students who were selected and will be announced tonight had their artwork hang in the Texas State Capitol in Austin and at the Bob Bullock Museum during Youth Art Month in March and April. Those students are 12th grader from Goose Creek Memorial High School, Jana Janobis. Jana Janobis is under the direction of Jana Morris, our teacher at Goose Creek Memorial High School. Our second youth art, the most important pick. There we go, Joe Ma. The second state qualifier for Youth Art Month, a 12th grader from Ross S. Sterling High School, Miss Avery Weir. Avery is sponsored at Ross S. Sterling also by Annie Watson, her teacher. You can tell it's like deja vu. Our third Youth Art Month winner is an 11th grader from Ross S. Sterling, Miss Priscilla Cerna. Priscilla is sponsored at Ross S. Sterling by her art instructor, Miss Brandy Bariga.
Let's scoot down here.
You're probably seeing some familiar faces here, because not only were some of these state qualifiers, but as Mr. Richard points out, these are also YAM winners, and some of them also placed in the fall at the Houston Livestock and Rodeo Show school art competition.
Excellent. Thank you.
Congratulations, y'all. Very proud of our visual arts students. The next recognition is going to be our Board of Trustees resolutions for our UIL concert and sight reading sweepstakes award winners. For those of you who may not have been musically inclined or wonder what sweepstakes sounds like, sweepstakes is actually an award given to our choirs, our bands, our orchestras, any musical competition. If you haven't been to our contest, they have a panel of 3 judges for concert and 3 judges for sight reading. And each judge can give our groups a rating from 1st division, which is the best, to 5th division, which is the worst. To capture a sweepstakes award, our groups have to achieve 1st division ratings for each judge in concert and sight reading. You have to average that. So they can go 1-1-1 or 1-1-2, an average of 1. But the ones you will see tonight were pure ones in sweepstakes. So fantastic. 1st divisions from all groups. The resolution, State of Texas, County of Harris, recognizing the outstanding achievement of the Goose Creek Memorial High School Varsity Mixed Choir First, who was awarded sweepstakes at the University Interscholastic League Concert and Sight Reading Contest for choral music on April 21st, 2017. Recognizing that the attainment of this award was a result of dedicated effort by members of the Goose Creek Memorial High School Varsity Tenor Bass Choir and their teachers. The Board of Trustees of the Goose Creek Consolidated ISD extends its sincere congratulations to the students, their teachers, and the school. Your efforts have brought honor to you and our school district. The Board of Trustees wishes for you continued success in the future. This resolution tonight will be received by two directors from Goose Creek Memorial and one who was available from Rossville Sterling this evening. Receiving GCCISD Board Resolution for Superior Achievement in UIL Concert and Sight Reading in their first Varsity Tenor Bass Choir, the Varsity Treble Choir, and the Varsity Mixed Choir, all taking sweepstakes. Goose Creek Memorial High School under the direction of Ms. Holly Llewellyn and Mrs. Lauren Hilliard. I know that's a mouthful, but I can't brag on these directors enough, because to go to contest and get a one is hard enough. To sweep ones and get a sweepstakes is extremely difficult. Additionally, receiving GCCISD Board Resolutions for Superior Achievement in UIL Concert and Sight Reading through sweepstakes, Rossville Sterling High School's Varsity Tenor Bass Men's Choir and Varsity Bass Mixed Choir under the direction of Levi Duncan and Courtney Howard. The directors actually talked a bit before the year started, because our district has moved regions in TMEA, the Texas Music Educators Association, into a district with Deer Park and the Pearland schools. And it's worth noting that in our first year in the new region, which is considerably elevated competition from the past, the only schools to receive sweepstakes awards in their varsity choirs were Goose Creek Memorial High School, Rossville Sterling High School, and Pearland High School. So congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, on your award. All right, thank you and congratulations to everyone who was recognized tonight. We're moving on to item 5, citizens participation. Ms. Garcia, do we have anyone signed up to speak to the board tonight? None tonight. Moving on to 6, approval of minutes, April 24th, 2017, regular board meeting.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Laredo, a second from Ms. Coffey to approve the April 24th regular board meeting minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your right hand. That motion, any opposed? Any abstaining? That motion will carry 4 in the affirmative, 2 abstentions, 1 absent. Okay. Moving on to discussion items, we have 2 superintendent reports tonight. Mr. O'Brien.
This evening we have Ryan O'Hara and Margie Grimes will be presenting Superintendent Report Number 1, Adjustable Rate Unlimited Tax School Building Bonds.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Again, Ryan O'Hara with HSC. Let me see if I can get the PowerPoint going here. You should have a hard copy in front of you. It's good reading material. Just to give you a little background, behind the covers, page 2 of the presentation. If you'll remember, back in February of 2014, we issued Series 2014A bonds, which were fixed rate, and then we also issued, Series 2014B, which were the adjustable rate bonds. As you can see on the left-hand side of the page, it shows that the maturities from 2018 through 30 were issued as fixed rate, but we issued the Series 14 bonds in 2 different tranches, if you will, 2035 index of bonds, and then a Series 2040 index of bonds that are up for reset here on August the 14th of 2017. It's highlighted in gold there. It's $30.6 million in bonds. These are done in an adjustable rate mode in order to reduce our interest costs. If you look on page 3, what we're looking to do is take this $30.6 million and keep it in the adjustable rate mode. We're going to have them reset in August of 2019. That rate there is highlighted in gold there. We're looking at about a 1.65% rate. It's currently out at 3%, so we're going to see an interest reduction right off the bat. And you can kind of see down there at the bottom a little timeline for you. The 2040 term bonds comes in August of 18, so we're going to kind of leapfrog each of these tranches, if you will, and take advantage of those attractive short-term rates. Page 4 is simply an overview. There's a lot of numbers on this page, but this is really the justification for why we did this adjustable rate bond program. They've become very, very useful tools in keeping our interest costs down. The left-hand side of the page shows the 2035 term bond, and what we're looking to try to do again with that 2-year put. It's kind of highlighted in those two lines there. We're going to again go from a 3% rate down to a 1.65, and we've compared that to what we would have issued these if we had issued them as fixed rate debt, and that differential is highlighted in gold in both of those scenarios. The 2035 term bonds on the left side, and then on the right side is the 2040 bonds. So just since 2014, taxpayers for Goose Creek ISD have seen an interest cost differential of just over $9.3 million. So these programs are very, very useful in keeping our debt interest costs down and also our tax rate. So we expect over time to keep this program in place. We have the flexibility to do everything that is referred to as multimodal bonds. We can fix them out in the future. We can keep them adjustable. We can even go weekly if we need to. So we got ultimate flexibility. Tonight was just simply an overview of what we got coming up. This August 14th date is a hard date, so we kind of want to start the conversation early, let you know what we're doing. At subsequent meetings, we'll have the attorneys come out with, there's going to be some orders and notices, but I just want to get out in front in May and start talking to you and let you know what's going to happen. But we're be poised to make this happen for you. So very, very excited that everything's worked out exactly how we anticipated it doing. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
No questions? Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Mr. Harrell. We'll call Margie Grimes up for our next superintendent's report, which is our 2017-18 budget workshop. With her will be Dr. Wyatt.
Good evening. This is our first of 2 scheduled budget workshops to review and discuss the development of the district's 2017-18 budget proposal. You've seen this before. This is just showing you that the budget calendar is reflecting the next budget workshop date of May 22nd, and then we're scheduled to adopt the budget on June 12th. I wanted to point out other workshops may be scheduled as needed, and particularly that we are still in a legislative session. We don't have this is very preliminary data, and we do not yet really know the outcome of the school finance bills. So we prepared a scenario, and this is subject to change. This is so early on, but we wanted to get some data before you. So. You've seen this before. This is really no different as last year. The only added objective is the one sort of right in the middle there, to maintain the current total tax rate of just over $1.43. This was added as an objective since last fall. The voters approved the 13-cent penny swap with no increase in the current tax rate. So we just added that as an objective for this year. Everything else was pretty much the same as last year. Planning assumptions. Just want to briefly go over those because at this point in time, again, this is very preliminary and just make sure you understand the assumptions we're working with. The certified taxable property values are received by the district on April 30th. We saw a 2% growth in the M&O values and a 6.5% growth in the INS values. That's due to our Chapter 313 agreements, that difference there. Student enrollment growth for the proposal is estimated at no growth, since the current year's growth is exactly about very slightly over 0.5%. So we just included no growth in the proposal. Also, state funding, we have additional revenue included of $3 million based on House Bill 21 by Representative Huberty. It was passed by the House on Thursday, April 20th. However, it has not been approved or passed by the Senate. And again, this is subject to change. We have an agreement with Moat Casey, and they do some runs for us to model what this would look like for districts that are participate in their legislative pipeline updates. And based on that estimate, we've included this scenario should this pass the Senate. This is probably a best case scenario. The Senate has their own bill, and it's a little bit more conservative, I think, than the House bill. So, also, Chapter 313, Revenue Protection Payment. We have estimated $3 million from ExxonMobil, and it is included in the budget proposal. Wanted to make a note about that, and particularly the distinction and the utilization of the Chapter 313 revenues. We have two distinct types of revenue sources on the Chapter 313 agreements. We have supplemental payments and revenue protection payments. The supplemental payments provide funding for the FCA, what we refer to as non-bond projects. The revenue protection payments are provided in the agreement to offset funding losses within the foundation school program as a result of the taxable value limitation that's applied on that side. However, the district has utilized the revenue protection payments for non-bond projects since supplemental revenue has not yet been received for the most part. I think we've received about $200,000 so far. The rest of the money received has been the revenue protection payments. So the non-bond projects primarily consisted of purchases for buses and district-wide computer replacements. You probably recall that from seeing the summaries we've provided in the past. And it should be noted for the 18-19 budget that the district will also receive revenue protection payments, in this case from Chevron for that year, for anticipated revenue losses that will also need to be included in the budget proposal for 18-19, and that will be a much more significant number than $3 million. We don't have a lot of data yet to project out that far, particularly with those values as those projects are still under construction, but we know that early models, the protection payments around $18 million for that year. I don't think we might need to budget that much of it, but we will have this again for 18-19. And this is the first time we've actually budgeted for any type of Chapter 313 revenue protection payment since we've been using them to fund our non-bond projects so far. I wanted to point that out because that distinction is becoming ever more important as we are having to include these in our revenue, in our budget proposals. Also, we do not include any foreign trade zone revenue in the proposal. We did approve a few foreign trade zone agreements this year. We also have one from Exxon, but no revenue is included in the budget. So any receipt of that type of revenue would be just available for any additional operating or capital needs the district may have. E-rate funding, we're continuing to reduce that. We reduced that source of revenue another $200,000 this year. We do have a salary increase recommended and included in the budget based on a 2% general pay increase. The capital outlay budget proposal, we've included an additional $1 million for capital asset improvements and major replacements. We have some major facility repair in need and in maintenance that has been sort of postponed over the past few years. So we have added in the general fund budget under the facilities and planning budget that amount. Comp time and overtime budgets will be handled the same as in the past. I'm not going to go through all of this. I provided this information for you to review since, again, this hasn't been approved in its entirety. But I wanted you to see some of the major components and elements of House Bill 21. You can read that, go through that. Unless you have any questions, we can cover them at the end if you'd like. The taxable property values, this is just a trend graph. It illustrates the increase in the taxable property values. Again, 2% on the M&O side, and I think we had 6.5% for INS, and this is just a trend graph of that. This is a trend graph of the enrollment growth. Again, estimating zero enrollment and growth for this year. This reflects an estimated enrollment of 23,676 students for the 17-18 school year and enrollment growth of 9% over the past 5 years. The proposed tax rate. This is just a summary of showing the total rate. It's broken down between the M&O and INS tax rates. It shows the value differences, the taxable value at the top. And then at the bottom, just a summary where you can see that our total M&O local and state revenue basically for the 2 years are the same, even with the inclusion of $3 million from revenue anticipated based on House Bill 21 passage, and like I said, that may not occur. But even with that occurrence, you can see where we've had the revenue stay the same and why we needed to add in $3 million of the revenue protection payments in. The revenue protection payments are not reflected here in these figures, however. So that was just a snapshot for your review. The first budget we'd like to just present is the debt service proposal. It basically has an operating transfer in from the general fund of $6.5 million. Total revenue for 17-18 is $37.3 million, and total expenditures are $36.2 million. This leaves a $1.1 million excess for the year, of which $375,000 is for the 2005A QZAB escrow account, and that leaves us a variance of about $750,000. Based on current collections, that could be utilized to even further reduce the $6.5 million transfer in from the general fund, but we like to have some sort of margin of error on our collections, and we can always make that budget amendment or make that decision later on in the year. This leaves the debt service fund with an estimated ending unrestricted fund balance of $14.9 million. You can see that recap at the bottom. There are the restrictions. We have an August 15th payment that comes due right after the fiscal year ends and before we collect new taxes. And then we also have the restricted escrow account for our QZAB bonds. So you can see that breakdown there at the bottom. This is just a brief graph that reflects our annual debt service payments. The total principal and interest of all outstanding bonded debt for the district is $681 million. The next budget is the school nutrition budget proposal. The proposed 17-18 budget is balanced with revenue equal to expenditures at $14.4 million. The estimated ending fund balance of $3.3 million. The Capital Improvement Fund. I like to point out that the adoption of an annual budget for this fund is not a legal requirement, but rather we present this for informational purposes since funding for these projects are accounted for in this fund. However, they're derived from local or general fund resources. So we try to present this budget now along with the other required legal budgets. The only expenditure currently included for 17-18 is $2.5 million for technology equipment for the new facility, which was not included in the 2013 bond program. You can see to the right of the proposal is a summary that reflects the Chapter 313 revenue to date of $5.8 million, expenditures of $8.4, and then that results in a difference of $2,662,881. This difference represents the total amount of the FCA, or what we call non-bond projects, that were purchased with general fund resources. So I provided that, again, for information, because we do have that project that we're expecting to have to fund out of our general fund for that facility. And then finally, we have the general fund 2017-18 proposed budget. With operating transfers out of $9 million, the $9 million represents $6.5 to the debt service fund and the $2.5 million to the capital improvement fund, as we previously discussed. The total net revenue for 17-18 is $207.8 million, with a 2% general pay increase and the $1 million added for facility repairs and maintenance. Expenditures total $210.3 million, and this results in a $2.5 million excess expenditures for the year. Again, that represents that excess that we're going to transfer over to cover the technology equipment for the new facility. Note the $2.5 million deficit is offset by the $3.5 million gain estimated for the current year. This is simply a cash timing difference. The Chapter 313 revenue received in the current year, but extended and to be expended in the ensuing year. And the ending fund balance of $69 million is about $1 million higher than last year and represents 33% of total operating expenditures. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Wyatt, who will cover the compensation plans proposed. And if you want to just change seats
I
with me.
can do that. Okay, as Margie said, the budget is prepared on a 2% general pay increase. As part of our pay system review we did with the Texas Association of School Boards, they did provide us two models, one at a 2% and one at a 3% increase. Both of these would have a starting teacher salary at 0 years of experience going to $54,000, where it's currently $52,500. You do have a copy of this in a folder in front of you. Just to give an idea of the cost of each of these, the 2% increase the general pay increase for teachers, nurses, and librarians would be just over $2 million. There also would be some equity adjustments, so the total would be about $2.1 million. For administrative professional grades, it would be $527,000. For 540, total of $12,000 in equity adjustments. For our clerical professional, $326,000 with $177,000 in equity adjustments for $500,000 total. Auxiliary or manual trades will be $335,000, $21,000 adjustments for $357,000 for about $3.5 million total, or about 2.4% additional cost. The 3% increase, which we also did include, has similar numbers. Of course, the general pay increase number goes up. The adjustments go down slightly for a $5 million total, which is a 3.4% increase. Just want to give everybody a second to take a look at that, and then if you have any specific questions.
Do you want us to go backwards or to go forwards? Do you want to start
down,
with this,
left, right,
ask you
click
questions, and then go
I
to the
can
budget
pass
part?
a microphone to Margie if you need me to. So.
I'd like to know, my first question is on the last slide. Clerical paraprofessional adjustments of $177,000, that's nearly 50% more than the increase with the 2%, 50% of the increase. Why so many adjustments to the clerical paraprofessional that TASB is recommending?
And
what are the positions that we've been underpaying according to TASB?
Exact positions, I can actually get you that. But part of what TASB does, they look at the market rates for different positions compared to everybody around, and they did make adjustments to our clerical scale. Last year, we made adjustments to our manual trades. They received a shift in their pay scales then. That's why you don't see as large of a shift there as you do with us here. Some of the biggest shifts are at the lower ends of our pay scales. It's for our instructional aides in our classrooms, our level 1 aides, and then our level 2 aides, which will include the aides in our self-contained setting, self-contained special education settings, nurses' assistants, and then also some of our level 3 aides, which will be some of our special ed clerks, attendance clerks, there'll be receptionists, a lot of our campus-based personnel. That's really had a significant step up there.
And these are because they're not included with the annual consideration for raise, or they are, but their starting salary is just so much lower it doesn't accumulate as quickly?
It's their, the pay scale itself is taking a large, more than a 2% jump, the midpoint is, so they're going to get more than a 2% adjustment up because they were at the lower end of the current pay scale, so on the new pay scale they would need a larger increase.
So I sat in on a part of the meeting with Ann from TASB, and as I recall, we're being compared to a marketplace that is similar in size and structure of our school district, right? It's not just any school across the state of Texas. It's
it is
a grouping of schools similar in all ways to Goose Creek. Is that correct?
Yes, it was mainly the Houston area, and they also left out some of the smaller districts and also the super large districts, 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 plus students.
And so in the budget that's presented to us tonight, a 2% pay increase is what's reflected, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And again, this is the early workshop. I think we have the capacity to show this does show 1% and 2%, but we could look at anything between here and the time we adopt the budget. But you get a good feel for a balanced budget is with the 2%.
We felt like the 2% fit well with our ability to balance the budget and was sustainable.
But I do want to make clear, and you've said it several times, Margie, this is based upon prognostication. It's possibilities based upon legislation that's currently in session. And I don't need to go into a whole diatribe on politics, but it's through the House. It will go to the Senate potentially and come out. It could come out altered. She referred to Moat Casey, one of our vendors that works with us to do estimation. Felt like that even though it will be altered, it cannot be stripped away. The proposal as it is now projects Goose Creek at about a $3 million increase, and they feel like while that could be tinkered with, it didn't feel like it would be completely. And the other thing I want to point out is Margie's went over this kind of quickly, but it was a great presentation on zero student growth, zero supplemental resources, and taxable values pretty much flatline. So everything you're doing is, in my opinion, presenting is conservative. The only unknown is what the Senate will do with it and how it comes out of that.
That's correct.
Can we go back to the planning assumptions slide?
It's at the very beginning. Keep going.
Thank you. Fourth bullet, the Chapter 313 revenue protection payments. Is this one-time money?
For all but one of the contracts, it is. Exxon has a unique contract in that it has a revenue protection payment scheduled for 3 or 4 of the years. This is different because Exxon's expansion is occurring. It's spread out more. And I did speak to Dan Casey about that because it was unique. All the other agreements have a one-time revenue protection payment. The year the property value limitation is applied, that first year, and the state is using a much higher value in the funding formula because they're based on prior year values. the district experiences this revenue loss. So all the other agreements, it's 1 year, but Exxon's will occur, there's I think 3 or 4 of the years have a revenue protection payment.
So, but that's the only 313 money that we're going to...
And just so that there's 4 years for Exxon, and just so that you know, the scheduled payment for next year, based on the June 15th, 2016 updated biennial school district cost data that's provided to the comptroller, shows an estimate of $5.6 million for revenue protection payments from Exxon next year, and we only included $3 million of that. And we felt that was the ultimate, most conservative. So
there is a chance that that 313 payment would
be as much as $5.6 million.
Could be as much as 5.6. What happens when the 313 agreement runs out and we've been using it to do a balanced budget?
Well, as soon as the values, so now the current year values, which are lower, are going to move, and the state is going to then use those lower numbers to assign local value. We're not going to experience that drop. They're going to assign lower local values, which is going to give us the additional state funding, which is going to make that number higher. So it's only for that 1 year that the limitation period, it actually becomes effective that we experience the revenue loss. And so this year, we received about 85% of what the biennial cost data that was reported to the comptroller. We received about 85% of those monies. So we thought using 50%. Surely if the state, if the legislature doesn't approve some kind of bill that produces $3 million in revenue to the district, using such a conservative cost estimate here, we feel like any maybe change, we might be able to make that up easily.
But this is different, and I'm trying to get a grasp of this. Is this different 313 money than the things that you have presented in the past that show us the next 5 or 6 years of projected that we're not supposed to guess we're going to get 100% of that?
Right.
This is different.
There's a total revenue estimated for all the agreements for all the way through 2028 to 2029 is $105 million. There was only about 67, right around 70 million of that represents supplemental payments. The difference of about 30 million approximately, give or take, is revenue protection payments, that is to protect the district from those operating losses that we will experience due to the mechanism of the Foundation School Program revenue calculation.
I think the answer to your question was initially the board was presented with 70 million.
Right.
So the revenue protection wasn't really a part of the 105 wasn't really a part of what was said. Okay.
That's what I was trying to get at. It's different. It's different,
and that's what I wanted to point out, though, that we have been using the revenue protection payments because there was a tiny difference in the needs to purchase these projects, and we hadn't received those yet. So we've been able to do that. But going forward, there's going to be some years where the district is going to have to utilize these protection payments in its budget proposal in order to continue to balance and to make up for those losses, those revenue losses that we will sustain.
The next one I have is the third to last, the capital outlay. You're projecting an additional $1 million into the capital asset improvement replacement plan. What was it this past year?
We don't budget a whole lot of capital improvement because most of them are repairs and maintenance, and this will fall in the repair and maintenance bucket as well. I don't know the size of Dr. Price's budget off the top of my head.
It was just under a half.
But we have cut back over the last few years as revenue budget constraints have been, year after year we've kind of been under that budget constraint mode. And he had the tune of some $3 million or so worth of expensive projects like some roof repairs and some painting of some schools that we couldn't fund $3 million worth of repair and maintenance, but we thought since we have not had the available funds in several years to do some of those necessary improvements that we should allocate some funds towards that.
And these are items that were not included in the initial FCA of 2010.
Right.
Which I understand that. It's just that at this point, it's a deficit budget of about $2.5 million.
It's only a timing difference because this year we're going to produce a $3.5 million gain. So it's really a timing difference between those 313 monies that we collected this year. We're just going to move them over next year. I will say that we do track the types of increases that we make to operating budgets, and they're marked as either one-time or they're marked as ongoing or continual, like the board's approved some program. In these cases, these monies will come back off next year and be available for either reallocation or determination. If the board chooses not to allocate the money in this fashion this year, it is a one-time allocation for.
But in the next 14 days, when we have another workshop, something's going to have to change to get those numbers closer to a balanced budget. That's one of your goals.
We have a balanced operating budget. The $2.5 million only represents the cash that we received this year for from Chapter 313 monies that we're actually just going to transfer next year. We have a balanced budget at the operating level. The $2.5 million represents capital that a previous facilities planning committee approved to use non-bond funds for. So between the 2 years is a balanced budget. We could go ahead and transfer the money this year and not put it in next year and balance both, but it's really just a timing difference. It doesn't represent an operating deficit.
$2.5 million
Yes, sir.
for the technology.
We could transfer that this year and have no gain, and next year be balanced. If you would prefer that, we can certainly do that.
So you're saying in this current budget that's going to be in the black,
Right.
2.5 million of that was earmarked for technology purchases that we didn't make?
We haven't because yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
They were designated 313.
Ms. Grimes, on the capital outlay projects, we'll be getting a list of those, I guess, as they come, if we need.
Well, in the past, you've got them as in a budget amendment. When we did a project, or we bring it to you as a budget amendment to do a capital project. I'm trying to remember the last one.
Dr. Price had just roof repairs of $1.2 million. So with that and the painting, I don't know the priorities, but those were the two. He had painting of
Painting is
two schools.
$200,000 per school.
Yeah, 2 or 3 schools, and then the roofs alone added up to $2 million. So we thought he would prioritize that. If that needs to come back to the board, it can also be budgeted as an operating transfer out, put over in the capital improvement fund, and then we come back to you with those as an unallocated resource, and then we come back to you as those projects arise. That's another method of accounting for them. But we have, like I say, they're really just repairs and maintenance. There's nothing we're going to capitalize on the books. It's really just repairs that we've put off for so long.
For example, one campus included a roof in the bond and another one did not. Same job, same size campus, same type of thing, and so that was one of the roofs.
I mean, we were going to leave that discretion to the deputy superintendent to prioritize those. There's so many projects that have been put off. If those, you want those to come back, that would be
The one that was included in the bond had buckets all over the school building. The one that's been identified hasn't reached that status yet, but has shown the similar signs, built the same year and those types of things.
So what you're saying is you're going to put an additional $1 million into the maintenance budget.
We have done that, and that is included. Yes, sir. The proposal that was moved forward to the general fund. It's right there. You'll see the line that says other operating expense. We were at $35 million last year. We're up to 36, and you see that $1 million increase. We've added funds there to his budget. That's where you see the variance.
Okay. Yes, I see. I'm pointing to them. Yeah, that's the extra millions. Okay.
Yes, sir. So if we removed that, we would have another $1 million to the bottom line. But
surplus.
We felt, the maintenance and upkeep of the facilities was important, and we've put these projects on the back burner, and we thought it was important enough to go ahead and include some of the projects that needed to be completed.
So on that same slide, my last question, your total revenue, 207.7, total expenses, 210.2. That difference is the $2.5 million that you say that we're not going to spend in this year's budget. We're going to roll it over to next year's budget.
We're going to actually move it actually moved that out to the capital improvement fund to pay for the technology for the new technology building. It is not really built yet. I anticipate, though, that will happen in the next school year, in the 17-18 school year. That's why we didn't move it out this year, because it just moves it out and sits there, and it really does us better sitting in the general fund balance. It's better sitting in the general fund and the fund balance than moving it out before we need it. So we've budgeted it, and we won't move it until the facility's complete or when Matt starts ordering that. And he said there may be a few things this year, but most of that will be ordered during the 17-18 school year, I believe. So it was just a timing difference. We received the funds from the 313, projects, but it was planned by a former committee to use those funds to purchase the technology for the building. They were not included in the bond. So this is just actually now accounting and providing those funds for that non-bond funded project. Like we did before when we purchased the buses or some of the computer replacements we did district-wide that weren't included in the bond, we also used.
So that I thought I understood it until you said that last statement. That $2.5 million that we're going to buy technology equipment with is not anywhere on this screen?
No,
on
sir.
this screen?
No, sir. It's right
Okay,
here.
all right. If it's not on that screen, then we still have a $2.5 million difference.
It's on that screen.
It's on that screen as a transfer out.
$9 million.
Yeah, it's at the top where it says operating transfers in or out.
$7.5 to the debt service, $2.5 to the TMS.
6.5 to debt service and 2.5.
Is that what this is right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But the expenditure of that is back under the capital improvement fund, where you can see we have, under the FCA recommended items, we've now added the TMS building, the technology for the TMS facility.
But most of the stuff on that, we've already paid for. It's been done and we've paid for it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We just try to account for it in this separate fund to make it easier to track. It gets lost in the general ledger. We have something like 13,000, 14,000 accounts, and it's just easier to track it here and show it to you, the items that we've utilized local revenue to purchase or construct.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Other questions?
So I know Mr. Price isn't here right now, but can you answer the question for the $1 million that you're going to dump into maintenance fund? Has that already been earmarked and identified, all the projects that need to be done with that?
We were given the directive by the superintendent that anything that gets approved out of that budget, we've already changed the workflow. In fact, Leanne has already changed it, that those will workflow through the superintendent for approval before any of those projects are any funds or purchase orders are approved for any expenditures. They will workflow through to the superintendent. Right?
They'll come to us.
It will.
So they haven't necessarily been identified just yet?
Well, as she said earlier, what he submitted was $3.2 million.
Right.
And we've authorized $1 million of that 3.2 that we felt were the highest need items moving forward, that were mechanical, electrical, plumbing, those types of maintenance issues that were not included in the facilities condition assessment or this current bond that we're in. So there are things that won't sustain themselves going forward, like chillers and things of that nature. This bond that we're 85% through is very comprehensive, but there were things that just did not get included in it.
And there's things that come up.
There's things that come up.
There are. I will point out that within this capital improvement fund, the bottom line, we have transferred in previous fiscal years $1.2 million of funds that now are unallocated, like we were under budget on impact and various of the projects that we anticipated when we first transferred funds over, and then the bids or the construction costs came in lower. So we do have $1,235,978 that can be authorized by the board for improvements, any other capital improvements. So.
Okay, so those could be added to the 1 million that.
Could be. That's at the discretion of the board, the superintendent. Mm-hmm.
Just for the record, Mr. Poppy did arrive at 7:29 in the middle of the presentation. So.
Any other questions we can answer?
I've got a couple things I'd like to mention. One is I think it'd be easier if you just put your hold harmless payments and your 313 payments directly into the capital projects fund. You're
Okay.
I mean, there's no point in doing operation transfer out. There's no point. That's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Whatever it's worth. I do have some concerns.
So, just for the rest of the board, to clarify, you're saying cut out a step that we're taking and go straight to.
Because it's not a legally adopted budget, and we wanted to be very transparent with that, that's the reason we,
But just build it in the revenue. You don't need to do the transfer outs. You're confusing everybody. I mean, I really think you are confusing. It's this year, next year, no, just put the money directly in the capital projects fund. That's my 2 cents. I mean, I'm not speaking for the board, that's my 2
so
cents.
just, are you just referring to the supplemental payments? And that's the other reason they
My
have
thing is
flowed,
the supplemental, and
we have flowed
if you
it.
like, but I do the supplemental and the hold harmless, because I don't want to live on the hold harmless like this budget shows us living on.
Well, in
We're paying for
this year
salaries.
and next year, though, we have such a drop in our local funding because of the limitations that we really are going to have to include them next year, too. There's no way under this sun that
Do
we'll
the
ever.
supplemental.
The supplemental, I concur, but the reason we
Be
haven't
careful with the hold harmless.
is because we've only,
Borrowed time.
right, we've only received $215,000 so far for supplemental payments, and because the rest were hold harmless, thus the need to run those through the general fund, because that's what the payments were designed to do, is to cover operating expenditures, and we've been using those for the capital needs. And that's why but I concur with what you're saying, and I totally think that would be a much simpler way going forward. We're just now beginning to get to that period where the district will receive some supplemental payments.
Right, and I think what happened was we just got the cart before the horse in our needs. We needed buses, we needed that
Exactly.
moving forward, so I think,
No, that's what we did across the channel. I moved $8 million from my fund balance to a capital projects fund to start us up, then as my payments come in, I pay myself back. I mean, it's a whole lot cleaner. Okay?
Yes.
That's all I'm trying to say. It's a lot easier to understand.
okay, what else?
I don't have a crystal ball, but you're not going to get $3.5 million out of House Bill 21. I'm just going to tell you guys that right now. It's not going to happen. The Senate, the House is at 3.5 and the Senate is at 0. You may be getting 1.75 on a really good day. I mean, you're not going to get what House Bill 21 has. So you've been conservative on the other piece, but I just think, and you'll know by June, we should have a pretty good idea. I mean, May 29th, I believe, is the last day for the legislation, unless special session. And I understand you do have, the foreign trade zone is not included in the revenue.
Exactly.
Okay,
We
so
felt
that-
like we had several other
help out a little
sources
bit
that
as
could
well.
make up the difference between including $3 million and what we might actually see. And we did only include $3 million, and I said that's a best case scenario, because I think that we will get something less than that.
A couple of questions, just, can I go to the compensation real quick, and I'll go back to the general fund. You pay what now, Ron, 52.2?
52.5.
52.5? Just out of curiosity, just wondering. I mean, you're already one of the top districts starting pay in the region. Was there any, Casville give you any ideas, models about not really bumping the starting much higher and building it more at year 5 and year 10? That's your bread and butter teachers.
One of the things that we had looked at is a lot of the districts around us are passing us. We're actually currently, I think, about the 5th or 6th highest in the area, where we've always been number 1, and next year we're going to have several neighbors that are going to be at or above 54.
I mean, do you really think people are going to leave? I'm just saying, do you really think how much you're going to lose? I mean, the starting teacher. I mean,
And we had
the strategy. I think it may, the concern has always been, we start great, but you're going to be making that same about 20 years later, because it never goes up once you get past 5 and 10. We've always fall behind everybody else. That was just why I wanted to raise the question.
Just for clarity, I don't think that's completely accurate. We don't fall behind everyone else. We're pretty solid through and through, but there's about 2 to 3 districts that peak at the 5-year
The ones
mark
that we
and
always
10
compare
years.
ourselves to, we
Right.
fall behind at year 5 and 10 and 15. And I was just wondering if it was going up, $1,500 on your starting pay.
What is for competitive reasons?
I understand that, but the other side of the coin is sometimes it's a slap in the face to our current teaching staff. or some can take it that way. I'm not saying it's intended that way. I'm just saying people can look at that and say, you know, I've been here 5 years. I've been here 10 years. I started out at 48. I'm making 53 now, and you're starting out at 54. You know, I mean, so I'm just throwing numbers out, but I'm just saying that may be something that may be considered, may not be. I'm just wanted to throw it out there. And then the concerns I have. How do we feel our budget is on the payroll? Because I noticed that we're about 1.8 million more based on our actual on 16-17 than what we had budgeted in 16-17.
That's the incentive payment. The incentive payment that we agreed to pay is included in the estimate for the current year, and that's about 1.8. That's
the
that
budget amendment
difference.
in June is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just check.
I think we brought the budget amendment already.
Yes.
We did.
Okay.
I think we did at the last meeting.
Gotcha. And then the other, that was the only questions I wanted to bring. I mean, I appreciate the work you've done. I know it's no fun trying to get everybody on one page.
And I just want to re-clarify, I totally concur with the confusion about the transfers in and out, but because we've used what was really protection payments for capital asset purchases, I wanted full disclosure as we went through this, and it felt like the thing to do at the time.
I just think if you put it in a separate fund and show it.
Going forward, I concur totally there.
That's between you, the superintendent, to do. I can't direct you to do that. But my main concern is, I think in a way we're kind of, we're adding recurring cost and we're covering with one-time expenditures on the whole harmless payment piece. We may be fine. I'm just saying, want to state the record. I'm a little nervous. I don't know. I think a lot of those projects you're talking about with $1 million in the deputy superintendent's budget could be taken out of the capital projects fund. I don't know why increase 199. I mean, you have all this money on the capital projects piece. Just throwing things out there as the budget is developed. I mean, if I say it next meeting, probably it's too late.
Well, for example, we have $2.5 million need for buses probably within the next year. So, I mean, that capital that's sitting there would likely be absorbed through, continuing to upgrade our buses. And we're no longer in a growth pattern where we're having to add 20 a year or 20 every other year. It's more now about replacement. The buses as they get older and have millions of miles on them. So, good points. Good points.
We had a point of just additional knowledge is we had, even though we added $3 million of the revenue protection payments, and we did see pretty much flat without, we would have a lower revenue this year than last year without it. We do have, if you go back to the INS budget, we do have a budgeted surplus, if you will, of $750,000 that, we could have transferred less than the 6.5 here. So I felt like we had several areas where we do have some cushion, if you will, some reserve that, should we not receive the full $3 million from the state, we have the foreign trade zone, and we only included $3 million in revenue protection payments, and we actually have another $750 here. I didn't want to, in the event there was some problem, you never know, there could be with values or collections or what have you. I'd rather, going forward, and that's why we only recommended the 2%. We didn't feel like the 3% was sustainable.
And I think it's the other reason why we went flatline with everything else. Everything else was so conservative because we really won't know until it comes out of the Senate what it's going to be. But I have been assured it won't be zero. So,
it won't be zero, but it won't be 3.5 either.
So
we had, maybe only one will understand this is Pete, and maybe he way better than I, but we do have a property value appeal for 2013 that should generate, I hate to throw numbers out there, but it could generate as much as $1 million possibly. We also have our property value study for 2016 that is used in our 17-18 budget template calculation from the state. That's an assigned value early on, and it's based on both certified and uncertified values. And those numbers are considerably higher than what we actually have as a value. So I think there will be and I don't think we can appeal those till 2019, but when we do, that will also be additional funds coming back to the district. So I felt like our numbers were conservative based on some other factors that really don't show up here.
Right.
No, I got you. The property value appeals are great, but, there's one-time money kind of thing,
But it is an understatement this year of what we should have received,
Gotcha.
had the values been
The other
lower.
thing is just, I would like you to look at the pay scale. I can't, I don't know if anybody agrees with me or not, but I think years 5 and 10 and 15 would go a whole lot more than billing it all in at the beginning. I know you're competitive. You want to go to the job fair and give them a letter of intent and say 54 and it's great, but that's your 0-year teacher. Your teachers they all do great, but the ones that, when you get to that 5 and 10 year, that's a key piece. And if you look at your average, that's about where our average is at. We're at about 7 or 8.
So just so you know, that's part of Ann Patton's presentation with the TASB salary review. We look at the 1-year, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year marks. And we are in the top 5 in all of those categories. There's 2 or 3 that spike up on the 5 and 10-year mark on us. But we're not trying to compete against onesies and twosies. We're trying to be consistent across the board. But I concur that the 10-year mark, 15-year mark, we could look at those, and we could look at making some type of proposal. But Ann Patton didn't specifically present that.
If I can figure out how to turn this on, I've got the market comparison at those year points I can show you. I
think
Matt a
one
lot
of the things to
sorry.
consider, though, is that because of the way we are set up in our location, it makes it very easy for our star teachers to be recruited out of our area because of those reasons. And so I think that would be probably a better, if you're a first-year teacher, you're just trying to get a job. And, if you can, I think doing things like that builds loyalty with our teachers into our district. Because if you can, if you're going to give me, if there's a difference of $1,000 or $2,000 right now, but later on I can be assured that I'll be fairly compensated for the job that I'm doing for a district, people think about that thing.
And this district has always taken great pride in that. We had the money purchase pension plan for that purpose. We wanted to have an advantage over other school districts. Those have gone by the wayside, but Dr. Sylvester, Dr. Wyatt, and Mr. Chapa have worked diligently in ensuring that we're keeping pace. Is that the one?
Yes. And this is our market comparison for our current salaries. And then part of the reason that we were looking at the bigger increase here is we're at 101% of the market, $500 more than the market area, than the market for our starting salaries. At 5, 10, 15 years, we're anywhere from $1,400 to almost $2,000 more. We're about 103% of the market. So we are above the market in our 5-year plus by a larger amount than we are above the market at our starting, because a lot of other districts are being very aggressive with their 0 years. Yeah, they're definitely front loading.
It just goes back to philosophy. There's not a right or wrong answer. You just have to ask yourself the question: what's your philosophy? Are you going to reward the rookie, or are you going to reward the ones that are veteran?
But look at the graph. What do you think that does, though?
I can tell you that a teacher comes in this district and is paid very well, and after 10 years, they're looking back at these new teachers, and there's not much difference from what they started with 10 years earlier. That's not on that graph. You can point to it, but it's not on that graph. Because I'm talking about a pay scale that was in place 10 years prior when they first came in. What we do is we reward, as schools in general, in my 2-cent opinion, we've shot ourselves in the foot because we compete to get the teacher. We put the front pay so high that we don't reward the ones that actually stay in the profession, the ones that actually do all the training and are the blue chippers that we call them, the great teachers. And I was just saying, I would appreciate you looking at it. I may be the only one, and that's fine. I just think it may be worth. I know what the graph is. I know what the graph shows. But where's the biggest bang for your buck? Is it that rookie, or is it the teacher who's got 5 years experience? That's the philosophy you have to ask yourself.
Well, just so you know, just as a vote of confidence, the programs that I was talking about that they're looking at are doing an evaluation on the 0-year teachers. We're not hiring just a 0-year teacher. We're hiring only the best of the 0-year teachers, such as a valedictorian, such as someone who got an honors in their college. So they're putting a lot of emphasis on what type of first-year teacher we're hiring.
9 times out of 10, I'll take your valedictorian 0-year teacher over the middle of the pack 5-year teacher that's been in it for 5 years, has been trained by the district, professional development and everything. Now 5 years later, I may take a different story, but I'm saying, you got someone who's been with you for 5 years. I mean, like I said, it's just a philosophical. You have to answer that question. I can't tell you it's right or wrong, because what's right or wrong for me may be different for you guys. I'm just saying, where do we want, where's the biggest bang for your buck, if you want to call it that? It may be something to look into, maybe something you don't change. I thought it was something worth mentioning.
Yes, sir?
It wasn't an attack. I appreciate all the work everybody's done. I know you've looked at our market. I'm well aware. I've seen them once or twice before in my career. Please do not,
I think the legislative session ends on the 29th. 29th.
Memorial Day.
So maybe by the next budget workshop, we may have some kind of school finance bill. And if not, certainly by the adoption date of June 12th, we should have a more refined number that we can work with. But
unless we dare say the term special session, which I hope doesn't come into play.
Please.
I've heard that the only way they would go into special session is if they were going to revamp the mechanism altogether, and I do not believe that's going to happen. I believe they're going to make concessions, I believe they're going to barter with one another, and I believe we're going to have a product at the end of the session. So.
It's difficult to have a June 30 year when, you don't receive values till April 30th, and you don't receive, the legislative session doesn't conclude till the end of May. And that's why we wanted to get information to you early, especially since we didn't have a general pay increase last year. We felt this was, even including $3 million from the state, we thought it was conservative, enough to go forward, even based on, even if it's a lower number. So we felt like it was a good proposal, and we wanted to do something early, because it does run really tight at the end, trying to get the numbers and get everything done. And in the system, if there is a general pay increase awarded by the board and it's not entered in our system before July 1st, we have to manually enter every employee and touch every record. So it's really tough if we don't have a little bit of advance notice on what the board's intent on that is. So we wanted to.
You're going to hate my next comment then.
Oh.
I'm just saying, depending on what happens, 2 weeks from now, you may not have $3 million.
Understand.
Then
the
you may have to
adjustments
look
will be
at,
made, yeah.
And then we may have to look at
Understand.
putting language in our budget where it's a one-time payment, and we wait to see what we get on the whole harmless payments.
And we may have to reduce operating budgets. We have every year we have just money that we award based on priorities and needs like this, and we may just have to reduce some of those.
And I'll be honest, part of it is philosophical. In the past, we've been more than conservative. We've been extremely conservative, and come back and added a raise in at the later date. And we're just trying to incorporate that. But we'll have, I think over the next 2 weeks, we'll know a whole lot more about what we're doing.
This was just a scenario.
I got you.
To give
I
something
appreciate
for us to use as a basis to have a discussion. So, first workshop's hard to do. So,
It's hard.
we'll be back with more data.
It's a legislative session, so that puts a whole different
Compounding it, yep.
compound on it. So, but I appreciate the work you did.
Thanks for the comments
Thanks,
and
Mr.
questions.
Papa.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
I think
Thank y'all.
that's it. Thanks, guys. Action items 8, consent agenda. Mr. O'Brien.
We have several, many of them. There's no such thing as routine, but I would say they're renewals and donations and things of that nature. But there are many here that I will go ahead and read through. Our consent agenda for this evening is number 1, board policy CDA local, other revenues investments. Number 2, list of qualified broker dealers and financial institutions for 2017-18. Number 3, resolution for the school district's approved sources of instruction relating to investment responsibilities. Number 4, engagement letters from the independent audit firm of Stark Garcia Stanley LLC for the district's and the GCCISD money purchase pension plans annual financial audits for the fiscal year 2016-17. Number 5, memorandum of understanding regarding the continuation of the adult independent through mentoring AIM pilot program between Goose Creek CISD and Lee College. Number 6, addendum to the agreement between Goose Creek CISD and the Baytown Opportunity Center. Number 7, Harris County Community Youth Services, CYS, CIS specialist during the 2017-18 school year. Number 8, addendum to the agreement between Goose Creek CISD and Bilingual Speech Therapy of Houston. Number 9, donation from James Bowie Elementary Parent Teacher Organization, PTO. Number 10, donation from ExxonMobil. Number 11, donation from Goose Creek CISD Education Foundation. Number 12, memorandum of understanding, MOU revision between GCCISD Police Department and Baytown Police Department. Number 13, first option to extend competitive seal proposals, CSPs for technology equipment, supplies, and services. Number 14, final option to extend competitive seal proposals, CSP, for janitorial and maintenance services for GCCISD Central Administration Building. Number 15, first option to extend CSP for solid waste management services. Number 16, ratification of superintendent's prior termination of Steep Creek Media Advertising Services Agreement and/or any further actions related to the same. Number 17, TASB Localized Policy Manual Update 107. Number 18, tax refunds.
Okay, we have 18 items on the consent agenda. Does any board member have any preferences to pull any of the numbers 1 through 18? Okay, no items will be pulled.
I'd like to move that we approve consent agenda items A1 through 18.
Second?
Motion from Mr. Laredo, second from Ms. Coffey, that we approve action items A1 through 18 as presented by administration. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 7 in the affirmative. Future board agenda items, board training, and board meetings. I'd like to point out that 1 week from today at 5 p.m. we will have a special call meeting for the canvass of the most recent election. If I remember correctly, we will have at least 3, possibly 4. Ms. Wood said she was available. Ms. Laredo, you were not. You are. Mr. Poppy was a possible. Okay. Ms. Coffey, you're not available. Mr. Sampson, you weren't here when we talked about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
What day?
It's a week from today at 5 o'clock. It'll take about 10 minutes.
Canvass votes.
If you can be there.
We only need
And
2
then Ms.
more.
Cockrell. We only really need 2, and we have 4. So but you're welcome to come. We don't want to exclude anybody. Okay. Okay. So just so everyone put it on your calendar if you're available at that time. Future board agenda items?
I must have missed, when are we working on start times?
Well, the last presentation was requested to be sent out, and we're going to have to come up with a plan of how we want to proceed with it.
Primarily, what I recall is it wasn't projected till the 18-19 school year, so there wasn't a pressing matter to get it returned on the very next meeting.
Well, there was also some discussion that it's not something we want to put on an agenda item without going through some proper education of the community.
I was going to ask if we could, the next meeting or thereafter, if the administration could bring to us the next 6 to 8 months timeline. This decision, if the decision is made to change, would need to be made, February at the latest, preferably, I would say in December. So give us, give us the process, a little timeline. We're going to have, when are we going to have some committees for the public? When are we going to have some administration going to provide some research? When is administration going to come back, show that research, talk with the information they got from other districts that are doing this, and then bring in the community or beforehand, whatever, just the process. Kind of a timeline, so we kind of have an idea of what our timeline would be as we just go through the process of, learning more information about it and coming up to a decision in the fall. That's kind of my thought process. I don't know if that's...
Yes, sir. That's
kind of what everybody...
That's kind of what we were...
Okay.
You just said it a little more
I don't remember us discussing that, but...
That was my 2 cents. I don't know if it was ever discussed. I think that was just...
I thought it was coming up, like, last meeting I was expecting it on the agenda. At least, I know that Ms. Coffey had asked for the plan and to see something on the agenda, and then we didn't hear anything about it. And I didn't see it on last agenda, I didn't see it on this agenda, and...
I will tell you that that was my decision not to put it up for a vote, because I did not feel that we've done a good enough job expressing why we're discussing this. I feel information got out there quickly for some reason.
Incorrect
information, and we felt that we need to inform our patrons what the research says and what all the proposals were that we had been looking at before we took it to a vote. Because if we implement something too quickly, it could have a huge backlash.
Right, I just feel like, and I don't have a problem with that, but I felt there was a disconnect in that communication.
On April 18th, we got an email saying that they were putting it out to small groups, and process will likely take some time and will not be forthcoming in the immediate future due to this nature of collecting community input to the process.
Well, and I feel like the only plan that we've even seen or discussed or researched is transportation. We haven't really discussed what the impact of the change in the start time would actually be to the curriculum, to the students' academic life, their extracurricular life. You know, those are the questions that we're getting bombarded with that haven't been discussed or researched really at all out in the open. Now, I would imagine that the planning groups have probably talked about some of these things, but I mean, we need to see the overall balance of what the school start time change would be for our students, our staff, transportation, etc.
I also would like to, I need to know that I was contacted by somebody who's an advocate for later start times that works in my district in Pasadena, and they've been doing a lot of research because she's been trying really hard to push it in Pasadena ISD. And she told me there's some experts, pediatricians and whatnot, that would be more than willing to come make a presentation. Who do I give that information to?
That'd be me.
Okay, good. And I also agree with Ms. Woods that we heard a lot from transportation, and there's more to this decision than transportation.
And all the emails that I've gotten have been focused on a 9 to 4:30 time. That nothing's been, I mean, that's everything I've gotten has been focused that they're going to be in school till 4:30 or almost 5.
And I think that's the allusion to some inaccurate information that went public.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, I've gotten bombarded with those, and it's all been on that particular time frame.
And I hate to say it, but I feel that, well, I'm going to say it, some of that was from emails that were sent out by our teachers. And in addition to that, some of the start times are not only erroneous that way, they're erroneous the other way by saying that elementary school kids are going to be going super early. And when I told the person, I said, you really need to stop looking at that part and really just go back and look at the board meetings. But I think a lot of that confusion started because when we asked specifically for 2 scenarios, and we got given all these scenarios for a month, and one meeting we got given 3 scenarios, and not the one we asked for. The second time we got another 3 scenarios, not what we asked for, and it went to a third time when we were more specific couldn't be, when we got what we wanted, and it ended up being a little bit more of a positive than the other 5 or 6 scenarios that have been given. I think we said it, but I just want to make sure that what we want to look at are specifically the last 2 or 3 scenarios that were given to us, and not all the beginning, because that causes confusion even amongst us.
We narrowed it down to 3 options.
I just want to make sure that's
the
out
last 3 though, and I'm not going to. I don't know the exact numbers, but it was like the number 1 was the if we do nothing, and then there were like maybe number 6 and 8, or 5 and 7. But it's in the minutes from when we decided that at the board table, that those were the options we wanted to focus on as we move forward with the discussion.
I just know that these meetings are being watched by those groups, and I want them to know that we're not looking at 8 different options. There's specific ones that we're looking at.
And also on that timeline, when we're talking about potentially changing, school start times, there's also, been the, I believe it was Ms. Coffey who first mentioned it, but we've all talked about it, was changing the potential change to the traditional school setup of the 3 high schools, the mega high school, a north and a south, and central 9th grade center, whatever. I think these are probably 2 things that need to be discussed at the same time in the same timeline. I believe it would be ideal for the UIL realignment if it were to make a change, because it would be for the 18-19 school year.
Well, Ms. Coffey's comments, I don't want to speak for you, Ms.
She
Coffey,
said the mega
but I believe it's
concept,
when the word rezoning came up, and that's when Ms. Coffey talked about thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
I don't think it meant necessarily that it would be tied to a change in the start time.
Well, I'm just requesting that
Ms.
they be
Coffey's right
discussed.
here, we can ask her.
I know, I didn't say she
Were
said
your
that.
comments about rezoning or about bell changing, bell change?
Well, I mean, I agree with what Mr. Poppy is saying. I think it's a good idea to think of it all at once. But at the time, I don't think it was tied to bell schedule.
I didn't.
No,
Please don't further. I was saying she was advocating.
I believe the way that we would go with the structure of our high schools, whatever we take, that I think is a different issue than adjusting the bell schedule.
I think it's 2 separate issues that need to be easier to be discussed at the same budget workshops or board workshops at the same timeline. Because that decision needs to be made by January as well, or February, December as well. I really don't want to come here and meet and have a meeting just discuss late start times, to have another meeting the next week to talk about the traditional. I think we can do it all.
And they might be able to complement.
And we may need to separate later, and we can bring them back. I think it's kind of like Augustine said, they're going to work together very well. Whether or not you make a change or not, either way, there are going to be 2 discussions that are going to require the same kind of data and information.
Okay. Anything else?
Did I see on the District of Innovation that they're going to bring that recommendation to us at the next board meeting? Is that correct?
It's in June.
The plan is at June 12th? Okay.
The presentation on District of Innovation is June 12th.
And their recommendation?
And one more, no, just kidding.
Okay. Anything else? Last call. All right. We will now move into closed meeting pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas Governmental Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.073, 551.074, 551.075, 551.076, 551.083, 551.087. No action will be taken while the board is in closed session. No decisions were made while we were in closed session. Moving on now to C1, discussion of personnel, elections.
Yes, the board has, administration has elections to present to the board, teaching elections and resignations as presented.
I move that we accept the elections and resignations as presented.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Coffey, a second from Mr. Laredo, to accept the elections and resignations, retirements as presented in board packet. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0.
And for consideration of administrative personnel, we have the selection of an elementary school counselor at Stephen F. Austin Elementary, Mindy Merling.
I move to approve Mindy Merling.
I'll second the motion.
Motion for Ms. Coffey, second for Ms. Woods to approve the election of Mindy Merling as counselor at Stephen F. Austin Elementary. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries 7 in the affirmative.
Administration asked to approve the selection of secondary school counselor Sadie Ambrose as counselor of Goose Creek Memorial High School.
Move for approval. Second.
Motion from Ms. Laredo, a second from Ms. Coffin to approve the to approve the election of Sadie Ambrose as counselor at Goose Creek Memorial. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0.
Administration asks you to approve the selection of a college and career counselor at Goose Creek Memorial High School, Grant Collier.
Move for approval of Grant Collier as the college and career counselor at Goose Creek Memorial High School.
I'll second.
A motion from Ms. Coffey, a second from Ms. Cockrell to approve the election of Grant Collier as college and career counselor at Goose Creek Memorial High School. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Carries 7-0.
Administration asks that you approve the selection of Kelly Start as the career and technical education specialist.
I move that we approve Kelly Start as career and technical education specialist.
Second.
We have a motion from Ms. Coffey, a second from Mr. Poppy to approve election of Kelly Start as a career and technical education specialist. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries 7-0.
Administration recommends the approval of selection of campus athletic coordinator, head football coach Tim Finn.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Cockrell, a second from Ms. Coffey to approve Tim Finn as the new campus coordinator of athletics and head football coach at Robert E. Lee. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries 7-0.
Administration finally recommends consider and take action to renew the term and probationary contracts of administrative and non-certified personnel as presented.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Motion from Ms. Coffey, second from Ms. Cockrell to approve administrative contracts as presented. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by raising right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Next item on the agenda is adjournment.
For approval. Second.
Motion for Mr. Laredo, second for Mr. Poppy to adjourn this meeting. Any discussion? All in favor? Raise your hand. That's a majority. We're 9:36 adjourned.